some reason in our lives, to tell the truth, the hardest people to tell the truth to, those people that we care about the most, the people that, our family, our friends, the people that we're closest to. And why is this? Because they see that hypocrisy in us. You know, they see what we do wrong. They see what we do right as well, but they really see what we do wrong. You know, they get to really know the true side of us, and it's a scary and it's a difficult thing. And it's something that's very uncomfortable. Something that's very uncomfortable. So who in here real quick has ever been in like a tough conversation before? Sweet. Anybody just want to like spit out just one or two word answers what that conversation was about? Like break up.
Break up.
Thanks, Sarah. Anything else? What's that? Religion? Yeah? For sure? Trust.
Suicide.
Oh, say that again, sorry.
Suicide.
Suicide. Tough conversation, right?
Oh yeah.
So real quick, how did those conversations go? One or two word answers.
Awkward.
Awkward. Anyone else?
Surprisingly well.
Surprisingly well. Yeah, they can either go one or two ways, right? They can go really awesome, or they can completely crash and burn, right? I've been in both myself. I mean, I've been through, I remember when I was a freshman in college, I went through my whole fall semester in a pledge of fraternity and everything. And the spring semester, I was looking, I was like, all right, Lord, I think I'm ready for a really good girlfriend. I'm about ready for that time, you know? Let's start looking for this girl, and I feel like I'm ready. So I find her, right? And I find this girl, and she's like really holy. She's a great girl. She's a chaste girl. Actually, a lot of friends that tried to just hit on her, spit game, or whatever you want to call it, and like she denied all of them. I was like, absolutely, that's the girl I want to go after, you know. And so anyway, it ended up working out. I have no idea why. But it ended up working out, and we started dating. And I remember it was like our second week of dating. Like all the butterflies are there, everything's great. I'm like in love, whatever you want to call it. And I went on this retreat, and I felt like this overwhelming call to discern priesthood. And I was like, God, now? Like you had the whole semester, like to do this. I was open, you know what I mean? And like as soon as I find this awesome, chaste, holy girl, of course you're gonna like plant this in me, you know? If anything, I was like, that's not really cool at all. I actually didn't say that. I said some other things to him. But I was like, what is going on? And I remember it took me about 2 weeks to actually like have this conversation with her. And I remember we went to the park. I don't know why I went to a park, but I took her to the park, and we were like swinging on the swings. I'm thinking this is going to be like, I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to transition into the conversation. So we start talking, and it ends up being like 2 hours of just me flirting with her. I was like, wow, Braxton, way to like suck at this, man. You know, and it's like a date basically. She thinks we're on a date, and I'm trying to break up with her. And I remember at the end we were like kind of walking away, and I was like, so I actually had something I wanted to talk to you about. And I remember I just kind of like just clenched. I was like, oh, here it comes. You know, and I told her, I said, her name was Mary Jean, but I called her Mimi. And I said, you know, Mimi, I feel like I really need to discern priesthood right now. I don't want to at all, but I can't say no to the Lord. And I remember she started crying. She was a little confused, but she was very supportive. She was very, very supportive. And anyway, so I went on the come and see retreat, and kind of discerned out of it the Lord. I think He just really wants my yes. You know, sometimes He does that where He asks us things and He sees if we're going to say yes, because He wants us to empty ourselves, because that's where like true freedom really comes in. And anyway, we ended up dating again a little bit later. Asked to be my girlfriend again, and yeah, when I look back on it, I went and did Cove Crest, which is this camp in Tiger, Georgia, later on that summer. And every single week, I was a group leader, and it was 6 weeks I was there. Every single week, I had a kid in one of my small groups that was thinking about priesthood. And it was crazy because I could like spot them out. It's like I had like a radar for them. You know, I could just like be like, you're the one. You know, every week it was like, I know he's going to come next week too. There's always going to be one. And there was so much fruit that came from that conversation because I did that, I was actually prepared to help them because I had gone through that. And when I talked to her about her experience, it was like, so what happened within that 2-3 period that we weren't together, that I told you I was a certain priesthood? And she was like, I grew closer to God than I ever had. She said, I told everything to my mother and I cried, but I prayed for you harder than I ever prayed for anyone. And it was incredible for her because she just completely gave her life to the Lord too, because she gave that in that suffering and that hardship. And yeah, that's one good way of how things turn out. I have plenty of Brago stories that didn't go so good. But I just wanted to mention the one that actually worked out pretty well. Well, not really, we're not dating. So there's 3 things that we need in order to really preach the truth, but with so much love, right? The first one's obvious, love. Second one is a relationship, or another word for relationship is authentic friendship. And the third is confidence and conviction. I made these up. This isn't like, I guess, necessarily truth. But this is kind of what when I was praying to the Lord, I was like, all right, Lord, like, what do you want me to tell them? And these are the 3 points that really came out. So I'm just going to go through these 3 points with you guys, with y'all that converted me. So number 1, love. Before we do anything, we must love. Right? It's the core of everything we do. In fact, it's what attracts us to another, is that love. That's how every relationship starts. Let's look at like the disciples, you know. They showed others the truth of love by how they lived and how they acted. They did things differently. They did things authentically. They loved differently, they ate differently, they talked differently, they prayed differently, they spoke differently. I remember there's somebody once told me that there's nothing more attractive than holiness. There's nothing more attractive to it. And I can just imagine just those disciples in the very first years. Like, people saw, man, there's something different about these people. And I'm attracted to it. And for the most part, they didn't do that many extraordinary things, right? The words of Matthew Kelly, they took what was ordinary and they did the ordinary extraordinarily. If that makes sense. They did the ordinary extraordinarily. Their lives were intriguing by the way they loved. JP2 once said that we should live in a way that makes others ask the question, why? Why do you live like that? So just as a finish up love, the last question I have is just for us. Does my life intrigue? Does the love I have for others attract them to me? Point number 2, relationships. Now, who's the king of relationships? Jesus Christ, right? I mean, you look all through the Gospels, he's always eating with the sinners, right? He's always eating with the tax collectors and the prostitutes, you know? You ever think, like, man, how did he get there? Like, how did he get to that point where, I mean, did he just walk up to the table and was like, all right, I just want to come sit with you guys? No. He got to know him first. He introduced himself. He started talking to him, right? He started forming a relationship with them, and he approached them with love, and they were like, wow, there's something that this guy has that I don't have that I want. Something that he has that I want. He was authentic with them. He spent time with them. If people think that you're honest and an authentic friend, there's nothing you can't challenge them with. I'll repeat that again. If somebody thinks of you as an authentic and honest friend, there's nothing you can't challenge them with. Because they know that it's coming out of love. Because they know that their relationship is already there. People don't listen if they don't know you care for them. Fair enough. I mean, how many times, I don't know, I mean, I think in my own life there's so many people that have tried to tell me truth at points in time, you know. And if I don't respect that person, I'm not going to listen to them. Fair enough. You ever had somebody tell you something that you didn't want to hear, but you had no idea who they were, you like didn't really like that person, and just went in through one ear and out the other? You're just like, ugh, I'm not listening to you, you know? But when somebody approaches you and they have an authentic relationship with you, you're going to listen. If Christian Boxer would approach me, or Clayton, or Brock, if they were to approach me and say, Braxton, I need to have a tough conversation with you, I would instantly listen because I respect those people. Those are my close friends that have authentic relationships with these people. And it's exactly that, that relationship which draws us to one another. And then also, it also shows that it's not about, a lot of times, what you say, it's about who says it. Right? It's about who says it. If somebody says something you don't respect, you're not going to listen, right? And that's how we know that we all have a call to mission. We all have this call to go out and to talk with our friends and invest in them, and to have these personal relationships with them, right? Because you can be like, hey, I want you to introduce you to my friend Braxton. Y'all should have a tough conversation. Y'all should talk about some deep things. That probably wouldn't work, right? They'd be like, I don't know who this guy is. People only listen to others that respect them. So how do we do this, right? Where are we at? What does an authentic relationship look like? What does a true relationship look like? So the first step is authentic friends ask meaningful questions. They ask meaningful questions to one another. I like to compare it to like a doctor, right? Who has kind of been in the doctor and they kind of like pulled something out of you that like you didn't really want to share. They know how to ask like the right questions. They know how to ask it. So, you know, when you go in the doctor's office, they say, so when did it start? You know, what hurts? Yeah, right here. Where? Show me. When did it start hurting? When's the last time you felt good? When's the last time it didn't hurt? And they kind of get to the root of things, you know. Another question I'd like to ask. I heard when I went on Seek, they had this talk on why would Pope Francis smoke weed with you, and I listened to the talk. It was an interesting talk. But the guy that was speaking said how many times do we ask our friends that are just living these lives of just whether it be sex, drugs, anything like that? How many times do we ask them, hey, do you ever wish you didn't smoke? Hey, do you ever wish that you wouldn't be unchaste with your girlfriend or your boyfriend? We ask these meaningful questions. I remember, just like a doctor, we can give people like a prescription, but they have to take it. They have to take it to Walgreens to get it filled, right? Like if they want to, they can leave that doctor's office, they can rip it up in half, and they can throw it outside, or we have no control over that. So don't feel like we can fix people because we can't. But we can love them where they're at, and we can speak the truth. But we have to have that relationship with them first. And the third thing, this is probably one that I think, in my mind, this is one that really holds us back from having these conversations, is confidence or conviction. Okay. You're like, what are you talking about? So this is the third point, confidence and conviction. I want to read you a quote by Pope Francis. This quote is actually not very well known. That's why I like it. It says, nobody can go to battle unless he is fully convinced of victory beforehand. If we start without confidence, we have already lost half the battle and we bury our talents. I'll repeat that again. Nobody can go off on a battle unless he is fully convinced of victory beforehand. If we start without confidence, we have already lost half the battle. I have one of the guys that I work with that's we're in discipleship together, Jesus, and his name's Tyler, and he's in the ROTC. I remember I gave him this quote and I said, what would it be like, you know, if you were to go out to war, which is very realistic for him, one day, and you wouldn't be convinced that you were going to win, but it changed the way you fought? And he was like, absolutely. Absolutely. He's completely convicted before he goes out in the battle that he's going to win this battle, but it's already won. And I remember in my own life, like how many times I was scared to tell the truth to my fraternity brothers back home. I'm from Louisiana, and I still am a Kappa Sig, and I remember I led a Bible study with my fraternity brothers, but it was actually the definition of what not to do in a Bible study, which is good because I'm a missionary now, so at least I know what not to do, right? So yeah, I mean, I would go into this Bible study and I would talk to them about things like being a man. And, I remember there was one point where like I got even like scared to bring up scripture with them. Very, very rarely did I ever mention the Lord Jesus Christ in any one of my Bible studies. Oh no, that's too scary. I'm nervous, right? Ended up talking to him. I think we did one study on like the 7 things that highly effective people do. That's not a Bible study at all. I was just like, I was freaking out. You know, I wasn't convicted when I was doing it. And 1 John chapter 4 verse 18 says, "There's no fear in love, but perfect love casts out all fear, because fear involves punishment. And the one who fears is not perfected in love." Like, dang, that's me. I think I love these guys, but may not even know what love is. In 1 Corinthians 13 verse 6, this is kind of that verse, is love is patient, love is kind. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. I know it's a little cliche, but you know, the truth is actually what sets us free. And I was scared to tell them the truth to my fraternity brothers. And, you know, being a missionary, I had to look back and I had to be like, well, why was I scared to tell the truth? And it's because I wasn't convicted at all. I wasn't convicted by Jesus. I wasn't convicted that the battle had already been won. So this past weekend, we went on this Greek retreat. So we drove down Louisiana, 11-hour drive, and it was a great time. And I remember it was crazy just getting there. You know, it just took forever, but it was awesome. We actually traveled with 5 really close friends of mine now. Remember, they said something that really stuck out to me, and I've heard it before, but they said evangelization is like a rush, right? Who's Greek in here? All right, what is so rush is like, you know, when you're trying to get people in your fraternity sorority, but those people aren't Greek, and I was thinking like, wow, like I remember because I was rush chair one semester, and I was like, wow, you know how confident I was whenever I rushed guys in my fraternity? Like if there was a guy that walked up and he was like, "Hey, I'm actually thinking about going to this other fraternity," I would have been like, "That's great, I want you to come check out my fraternity." You know? It's like, let me tell you about my fraternity. And I would go on the list, I might say some history, I might show them the guys, and I was completely convinced that if I got this guy around my fraternity brothers, if I took him to a party, if I took him to anything we did as a house, they were going to be Kappa Sig. There was no question on mine. There's no question on mine because I loved our fraternity. And I had a great time in it. And I was so convicted that this was the best one on campus. And I remember thinking, you know, they said evangelization is like rush. We were thinking, wow, am I that convicted about my faith? When I tell people about Jesus Christ, am I really convicted? I'll tell you this much, I was definitely more convicted about rush than I was Jesus Christ. That's for sure. So this is one question. There's a couple people that are on Bible study today, kind of cheated. But there's one question that and a couple of the guys in discipleship with I've asked. There's one question that can really challenge you to see if you're convicted that Jesus Christ is the very center of your life, if you have a relationship with Him. And I remember the first time somebody asked me this question, I was stumped. This was actually last semester, so don't feel like wow, this guy's holy. It's like, no, I just had time to like think about my answer. And I remember I called my boss. He was actually my boss's boss's boss. He's the DCO, Sam Mazzarelli. We were talking to him. I called him. I said, Sam, I don't know how to do my job. Like, I don't know what discipleship is. We do this thing called discipleship. And I was like, I don't even know what this is. Like, please, like, help me out here. You know, like, what is it? Is this like this list of things we do and then they're done? You know, like, I don't get it. I remember he asked me, he goes, Braxton, why are you a missionary? And I was like, well, I mean, you know, I felt called by God, so, I mean, it makes me happy, so, I mean, so I'm a missionary, you know. You can tell, like, this dude is, like, an intense dude. When he asks you a question, he's, like, staring you down. I was on the phone, but I was still, like, shaking. You know? It's actually why I called him, because he's a very bold guy. I was attracted to that. And he was just like, Braxton, why are you a missionary? And he kept asking me, and I'd give him an answer. He's like, no, that's not the right answer. And I was like, man, I'm getting quizzed right here. I was like, I'm failing miserably. He kept asking the question over and over, Braxton, why are you a missionary? And I really couldn't have much of an answer for him, what I gave him. And I remember kind of hanging up that conversation, being like, wow, you know, well, I'm getting fired, you know. But I remember too going to prayer and saying, Lord, like, why am I a missionary? And I've actually converted that question. I think the better question is, why are you in your own life? Why have you chosen to be a Christian? I remember that question really hit me hard because I didn't have an answer for it. I feel like I knew I had the answer, but it was like, when somebody asked me, I was like, oh, and I just freaked out. I freaked out. I didn't know what to do. And when I think back about it now, it's just kind of like, man, how could I not have an answer to that? I shared my Bible study today, you know, why I am a Christian. I kind of wanted to share that with you today because it has nothing to do with how I'm raised. I mean, that might have been like the start of it. You know, I went to Catholic school. You know, I was never really involved in church. We didn't have to go to church every Sunday. Just me and my mom growing up. My dad wasn't Catholic. But regardless, like, I didn't know Jesus. Plain and simple. And why am I Christian? Kind of a deep question, right? Why I'm a Christian is because I'm crazy in love with Jesus Christ. And I can't imagine my life without it. And my God is it's like a drug. And the more I keep taking them, the more I want more. And when I go one day without prayer, when I miss even most of my prayer that day, I can just tell. Like, it just takes something out of me. My days are different. My life is different. I don't love as good. I miss it. I miss that relationship with him. It's incredible once you meet him. Because you're faced with a challenge once you meet him. Once you meet him, you're faced with a choice. Faced with a choice. And so we all have a mission. Real quick. Let's go to this. So we all have a mission, right? So number one, we need to love. We got to love in an authentic way. We got to love differently than we've been loving. We got to love in such a way that people are attracted to that love that we have, that holiness that we have. So we have to have authentic relationships. Those relationships where people don't mind being challenged because they know how much love we have for them. And the third is that we have to be so in love with Jesus Christ that when we talk to others about him, that we are not only confident, but we are totally convicted. That we are totally convicted. So here's the reality. Here's the reality. Simply because someone is in your life means that you have a major part in their salvation. Because you're roommates with your roommates, that means that God has put you there as part of their salvation story. Mother Teresa, there's a quote from Mother Teresa, and I love it, and it applies to my job so well. She says, there was this guy that walked up to her and was like, hey, I'm stressed out. You know, I've got my mom, my family that are struggling. I've got friends who are back home that are struggling. I've got college roommates and friends that they're struggling. And I'm also trying to do my duty as a Christian, as a Catholic, to go and serve the poor, to go to those nursing homes. And he walks to Mother Teresa and he's like, where should I start? where do I start? I don't know where to begin. I feel overwhelmed. Mother Teresa, just being Mother Teresa, looks at him in the eye. She said, it's not about numbers. She said, it's very simple. You start with the person next to you. You start with the person you can touch, the person nearest to you. And we all have a mission. Every one of us has a mission to love differently. To be convicted with that love. And sometimes to have those tough conversations. But we can only have those if we have real relationships with people. If we have authentic relationships with them. So I just kind of, we close. I just have a challenge for everyone. Just to kind of apply this to our own lives. Sometimes talks are really good. You can hear, you can take notes, and it's like, that's great. But I really want to try to turn this inward. Because once the Lord has these tough conversations with us, then we know how to have tough conversations with others.